Good, Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the WAC Academy, the AUM podcast for writing across the curriculum. Last we talked about transfer and how freshman composition sets a good foundation for writing in college and beyond. This week begins Discipline Month, where we focus on writing in the various fields across campus. To help me this week, we have Elizabeth Burrows here to discuss writing and philosophy. In case you missed last week's episode, Mrs. Burrows has a background in writing centers and teaching at the university level for over a decade now.
Hi, everyone.
Since you were here last week, let's talk about the similarities first.
Sounds like a plan. The good news is there's lots of similarities between writing in your freshman comp classes and writing in philosophy, so pay attention. The first similarity is that philosophy papers are thesis-driven, which should sound familiar to your English 1020 project. You might also need to explain to your audience why they should care about your thesis, and then you need clear support to write your papers. Philosophy papers and assignments shouldn't be done in one session, so use that writing process.
What can philosophy majors expect in terms of differences?
This is where it gets fun, Mike. From what I've seen on LibGuides and Writing Center worksheets, in addition to some material from philosophy professors here at AUM, there are two major types or genres of papers, though they are sometimes called different things. One is the critical paper, which critiques a philosophical question or position. The other is a constructive paper, which seeks to prove a position or idea is true. You can see why the thesis is so important here. There are some other clear distinctions, though. The introduction should definitely present the issue at hand, but also articulate why it's important to consider. And counter-arguments are even more important in philosophical writing. If you've ever had a philosophical conversation outside class, then you know what you're getting into. If you haven't, definitely read up on it. And we are providing some of the resources for you online after the podcast.
While we have some time, let's do a fun question. If philosophy was a sport, what would it be and why?
Writing and thinking in philosophy is a lot like tennis. You go back and forth with points and counterpoints, but the object isn't really to win. It's to play the game and advance your thinking on the subject.
I know we are running out of time, but we can't neglect grading. You know that's one of the most frequent questions out here for us here at the WAC Academy.
Of course. So here's the thing. Always ask your professor about the expectations for an assignment. However, there are some guidelines that are connected across the resources. First, it's not enough to address the philosophical question. Instead, you need to find a way to clearly define the issue, organize your discussion around a thesis that includes evidence and support that covers the counter-argument or counter-arguments as well. Your paper should have depth and make progress in addressing your question. If you're striving for that A, then you need to cover all the elements of your particular question.
As a sum up, what words jump to mind when thinking about philosophical writing?
Semantics. Because philosophy tries to advance thinking about concepts or questions, semantics is crucial. For example, you wouldn't write a paper about how abortion should be considered murder. That's likely an English research topic. You might, however, find yourself debating the relative morality of abortion, because with that, you can go back and forth almost endlessly. You'll have to know the definition and meaning for words so that you can write about them.
As a teacher, what's your best advice for philosophy students?
Stay open-minded. This is important in life and in college, but especially in philosophy. You're going to have to be able to push yourself to think about all the angles of a question. Being open-minded is a writing tool in that way.
Thanks again, Ms. Burrows, and please remember to check out the resources she's helped gather on this so you can read for yourself what schools like AUM and Harvard have to say about philosophy and writing. Hint, hint, they're pretty similar. Next week we'll be talking about psychology, and our special guest will be Dr. McGlynn.